glimpse of what he intends to do. There are over 100 executive orders that he intends to sign almost immediately. He'll focus on the borders. What's also very interesting is the buzz here in Washington, D.C. Drill, baby, drill. That's the conversation. Drill, baby, drill means he wants to bring oil prices down. He wants to start drilling for energy here in the United States of America. He wants to reverse a lot of decisions that have been taken by the Biden administration and early administrations. And that's the way he thinks he can bring energy prices down. The moment you bring energy prices down, you put more money in the wallets of people. That's been one of his core promises. He's also threatened to increase tariffs for neighboring countries, whether it's Canada or several other countries. But before I get to that, let's quickly take you through the cold air alert, the cold air emergency that was issued late last night. Icy winds are blowing across this part of the United States of America. In Washington, D.C. right now, the temperature is 4 below zero. It was snowing last night and it's likely to snow in a couple of hours once again. Arctic winds are blowing here. A state of cold air emergency has been declared not just here in Washington, D.C., but also in New Jersey and several adjoining areas, with the mayor and the administration asking people to remain indoors. Do not venture out unless it's absolutely necessary. Yesterday, it was very cold. Today, it's even colder. In fact, yesterday, there were long queues outside the Capital One Arena with a large number of people waiting for hours, some for up to 8 hours to enter the Capital One Arena. And here, then President-elect Donald Trump talk about his plans, and his supporters, his fans, and we've interacted with a number of them, are extremely excited about the roadmap that he has laid out in his second non-consecutive term for the next 4 years. And top of his agenda is the war to stop the invasion, as he calls it, at America's borders. So does this mean mass deportation, sending out illegal immigrants and including separating families? That's been a big topic of debate, but his supporters say that the invasion of illegal immigrants has to be checked, and that would be his top priority. Also, he's already talked about his efforts to ensure that there is no third world war, that there's peace between Russia and Ukraine and in the Middle East. So 3 Israeli hostages have been released. Close to 90 Palestinians have also been released. Now, will it lead to more in days and weeks ahead? Donald Trump has been talking about it's the Trump effect that hostages are being released. But remember, there are more than 101 to be precise, hostages that were to be brought back. 3 have been brought back. So it is a tough task ahead. Internally, while there is tremendous excitement about sealing of the borders and sorting out illegal immigrants, but will prices of gas come down? Will prices of food and essential supplies come down? Those are some of the bread and butter issues that Donald Trump will also have to deal with. But as of now, his supporters are very excited that 100 executive orders are likely to be inked, not just today, but in the next 24 hours. And America is likely to see a war on illegal immigration. So there are major road restrictions right now across Washington, D.C., and especially in this part of Washington, D.C. as we walk towards the Capitol. And with me is my colleague Anjana Om Kashyap. Anjana, quite cold this morning. It's been very, very cold since yesterday.
How many layers are you wearing? That's the question. We've been discussing on the layers we need to wear here because I just checked with a guy standing across the road. What does the weather app say here? And he says it's -6 degrees Celsius, he told me, which is actually going to feel like around -11, 12. So terribly cold, but that just doesn't deter the Trump supporters. That's the interesting part, Gaurav. We saw people like rushing out of this place because they wanted to get a seat in Capital One Arena. So we're really getting a sense of the fact that Trump wants to take some big decisions. Via the American media, we get to know that he wants to talk to Vladimir Putin. So all these centers of war, he wants to play the peacemaker. And with the ceasefire with Hamas and Israel, he wants to project himself as a world leader who's heading towards a lot of peacemaking process. But just let's see how he goes with America, and this MAGA motto of his goes in which direction.
There's tremendous excitement. Anjana and I were reporting from the Capital One Arena, and even yesterday it was raining. Today, fortunately, it's nice and bright right now.
The sun is out.
The sun is out.
Isn't that so amazing? It's snowing all over and it's really cold, but the sun is out. So after 40 years, we're having an indoors swearing-in inauguration ceremony for Donald Trump. But interestingly, the sun is out. He must be on
Cloud 9.
Cloud 9 or Super Sun 9 or whatever you call it.
So, absolutely, because when he was talking to his supporters yesterday at the Capital One Arena, what did he say? He said good things are already happening. Anjana was talking about the peace with Hamas, and he's already calling it the Trump effect, that 3 hostages have been released. He's already talking about engaging with China, visiting India is something that his supporters are talking about. And you and I have spoken to a large number of Indian Americans and Republican Americans who say that India will play a very critical role in this relationship going forward.
Absolutely. And we've constantly talked about the H-1B visas. We've talked about how the Indians contribute to the growth of this country. That's the underlying thing that Trump cannot ignore. And off record, I've had conversations with a lot of businessmen and professionals who are working here who clearly tell me that it can be a political stance for a while, but Trump and his administration know that Indians are indispensable in the ecosystem, especially the IT ecosystem of America, and that's one place he would not want to touch beyond a point.
He's a businessman. He wants to make a good deal, and he knows with India, it's always a good deal for him and for India. Anjana, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. We will continue this conversation as we reach the Capital One Arena. We will be reporting from that entire road, from the Capitol to White House when President Trump walks down as President of the United States. Let me tell you what all will happen today. So first, the Vice President, JD Vance, he's sworn in as the Vice President. Then President Trump will be sworn in by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court here in Washington, D.C. And then there's a multi-faith prayer that will happen. And then Donald Trump will address the crowd once again on his vision as the President of the United States of America. The executive orders signing, 100 of them. Let's get you more in this report.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
US President-elect Donald Trump shows off his famous dance moves, grooving to YMCA. The classic 1970s disco anthem at the Republican leader's pre-inauguration rally in Washington, D.C. The Make America Great Again rally held at the Capital One Arena on Sunday night concluded with a performance of the song by the disco group Village People. USA! Besides Village People, musicians like Kid Rock and Lee Greenwood performed at the rally.
Little X just followed me on the stage here. He's a very enthusiastic supporter, as you can see.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk made a brief appearance with his 4-year-old joining him and Trump on stage.
What matters going forward is to actually make significant changes, cement those changes, and set the foundation for America to be strong for a century, for centuries, forever.
Speaking at the rally, Trump promised to prevent World War III and end the invasion of US borders.
I will end the war in Ukraine, I will stop the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent World War III from happening, and you have no idea how close we are. Bring them home!
Trump took credit for brokering the Gaza ceasefire deal, which ended the 15-month war between Israel and Hamas.
Glad to report that the first hostages have just been released. I know that Biden is saying that they made the deal. Well, you know, I mean, that deal should have, first of all, it would have never happened if I were president. Would have never happened. There was not even a thought of it. I'm so grateful.
Many celebrities showed their support for Trump as he prepares to begin his second stint as the President of US.
Now he will make America thrive again. He will make America great again, safe again.
Trump also attended a private reception. Indian billionaire Mukesh Ambani and Neeta Ambani were at the event. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will represent India at the inaugural ceremony. A sea of Trump supporters have gathered near Capitol, including prominent Indian Americans.
Actually, when President Trump is going to be in the office, there's just a media hype that is going to be destruction. But I'm sure President Trump, because he's authentic president, because whatever he say, he do. Whatever he's even not mean to say, he says.
Well, welcome to the Make America Great Again victory!
Trump's oath will take place inside Capitol Rotunda, making him the second president to take the oath there after Ronald Reagan in 1985. With Gaurav Sawant and Rohit Sharma in Washington, D.C., Bureau Report, India Today.
Donald Trump had initially announced, and so had those close to him, that TikTok would be banned in the United States of America, and momentarily TikTok went off air. Remember, TikTok is already banned in India. It's seen as a Chinese spyware in various parts of the world, but Donald Trump realized that a large number of youngsters in TikTok and his supporters, they use TikTok. They're very close to his vote base. They are his vote base, and he didn't want to annoy them. So now there is a distinction that the administration is attempting to make on the usage of TikTok and the spyware and the ownership of TikTok by the Chinese government or those close to the Chinese government. So those close to Donald Trump are talking about how they're looking at some kind of a mechanism where there's 50-50% partnership, and the algorithms, United States should know how they're being managed so that no foreign country is interfering in America's internal affairs. But is that even possible? Social media, who will then own the 50% venture of TikTok? All of this is the big buzz here in the United States right now. We get you more in this report.
TikTok, the Chinese-owned social media app, and its over 170 million users in the United States have had an anxious last 48 hours. After suspending services following the US Supreme Court upholding the ban, TikTok is now in the process of restoring services to users in America.
TikTok is back. Oh, I like TikTok. I like it. I like it.
Soon after TikTok went dark, Donald Trump announced the decision to revive the app's access in a post on his Truth Social account, but with the condition he would like the US to have a 50% ownership position in a joint venture. In a statement, the company thanked the incoming president for providing the necessary clarity and assurance and said it would work with Trump on a long-term solution that keeps TikTok in the United States.
On behalf of everyone at TikTok and all our users across the country, I want to thank President Trump for his commitment to work with us to find a solution that keeps TikTok available in the United States. This is a strong stand for the First Amendment and against arbitrary censorship. As we've said, TikTok is a place where people can create communities, discover new interests, and express themselves, including over 7 million American businesses who earn a living and gain new customers using our platform.
4 years ago, in August 2020, President Trump, towards the fag end of his first term, invoked his emergency economic powers to issue an executive order that imposed broad sanctions against TikTok on national security grounds. Members of the Congress have claimed that the Chinese government has a golden share in ByteDance, TikTok's parent company. US lawmakers have also alleged that the Chinese government can force ByteDance to share TikTok user data. In 2023, the social commerce market in the United States generated an estimated $75.6 billion in revenues. Forecasts indicate that this amount will nearly double over the next 5 years, exceeding $141 billion. TikTok's estimated ad revenue in 2024 is pegged at $12.3 billion with around 1 billion global users. So what happens next? Media reports suggest many US companies and billionaires have expressed interest in buying ByteDance's popular social media app. Chinese government officials have considered selling TikTok's US operations to Tesla CEO Elon Musk for his deep bond with President Donald Trump. US search engine startup Perplexity AI submitted a bid on 18th January to TikTok's parent ByteDance for Perplexity to merge with TikTok US. YouTuber Mr. Beast, whose real name is Jimmy Donaldson, wrote on X that he would buy TikTok so it does not get banned, later claiming he had so many billionaires reach out to him and said he would see if we can put this off. Internet advocacy group Project Liberty, run by billionaire Frank McCourt, submitted a proposal backed by Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary. Guggenheim Securities and others on 9th January to buy TikTok's US-based assets. They propose to restructure the company to collect less user data. If Donald Trump's executive order cites the suggestion of 50% US ownership, ByteDance will have to abide. But for now, the Chinese company has refused a sale flat out. Bureau Report, India Today.
The world is watching Washington, D.C. very closely right now. Not just people in the United States of America who are talking about what will happen at the borders, or will they have cheaper energy, will they have more money in their pockets, but how will Donald Trump impact the world? Even before he enters the White House, he's talked about taking control of Greenland, he's talked about taking control of the Panama Canal, he's talked about making Canada the 51st state. But how will he deal with countries like China? What will his equations be with European countries? Will he be as harsh with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization? Can he actually bring about an end to the Russia-Ukraine conflict? He wants to meet President Putin of Russia early in his tenure. He's likely to meet President Xi Jinping early in his tenure. He's expected to travel to India for the Quad Summit. India is hosting the Quad Summit this year. India Today's news director Rahul Kanwal is at the World Economic Forum at Davos, and in Davos the conversation to a very large extent is centered around Donald Trump and his presidency, his legacy presidency, as several are calling this. Listen in to Rahul Kanwal in Davos.
Your Congress convenes at a time when the world's eyes are on Donald Trump taking over as President of the United States once again. What's the general buzz that you're picking up by speaking to all the delegates who've assembled from the world over? How is WEF looking at Trump's second presidency?
So I think the participants are particularly happy that we will have Donald Trump the third day in his presidency live in Davos on video for an hour, making a speech, but also having dialogue with the participants. That shows that Donald Trump appreciates Davos and the World Economic Forum. He's been here twice as president, the only president that has been twice in a row. And then he is underlining the importance of deals. And I think in Davos this year, you have a lot of realism related to the economic outlook, and we need to revive global growth. So the focus is on how can we make sure that we get closer to trend growth, 4% in the years to come.
So you've spoken of a geopolitical recession. Explain to our viewers watching you at this time, what do you define as geopolitical recession, and how should the world be prepared to deal with it?
So the backdrop geopolitically is not like this, sunny. The geopolitical backdrop that we are working against, or the backdrop for Davos this year, is the most complicated geopolitical backdrop in generations. What do I base that on? It is the competition between the G2, China and the US. There is more conflicts and wars than in the past, and we see less cooperation and more competition, and that's something that is also shaping the agenda here in Davos. But what we're trying to do is, though, to identify areas where there is enough self-interest to also then collaborate even in a fragmented world.
So you've spoken of a stable world order having passed. What comes? You're saying there's a new world order that's taking shape. What form and shape do you think this new world order will finally take?
It's hard to say. I definitely hope it's not the jungle growing back or the law of the jungle. I don't think it will be, but you know, when you are between orders, it's always unruly times. Nations are competing for influence, the same with companies. It's definitely going to be a more multipolar world. More players. You also see emerging economies taking more and more of room, and also a bigger part of the world economy, be it Indonesia, Malaysia, Africa, and definitely India, that is more and more influential. In this more multipolar world, there's still big key actors like the US, because they're close to 30% of the global economy, close to 50% of the global military capabilities. But how to combine a more multipolar world with some multilateralism. Multilateralism meaning some rules of the game, some traffic rules. How can we collaborate in specific areas where we need more cooperation? Look at the wildfires in Los Angeles. We still need to collaborate on mitigating greenhouse gases. Look at the bird flu now spreading in the US. We need to collaborate even in a competitive world on some future preparedness for then future pandemics.
The World Economic Forum has always been a champion of globalization. President Trump poses the greatest threat to globalization, which in any case seems to have been in recess. How are you assessing the impact of potential trade tariffs that President Trump and his administration seem determined to impose?
It is true that it's a much different world than in the past. In the past, there was like a win-win thinking. What is good for you is good for me, and vice versa. No, it's more about competition and national interest. But even in a world where national interest is so critical, I think we will see growth in trade. Look at Trump 1.0. Trade grew globally also when he was president last time, and economic growth was strong. So I think there might be some tariffs coming, especially for those with a large trade deficit with the US. But we know also that Trump is a deal maker. He's also someone that likes to negotiate. So sometimes he put tariffs out there, and then we'll see what happens down the road.
So as the world looks at the inauguration of President Donald Trump, all eyes also on the First Lady, Melania Trump. She's been quite an enigma. In her first term as the First Lady, when Donald Trump was the 45th President of the United States of America, in a rare interview, she said she's now better prepared as she enters White House for her responsibilities as the First Lady of the United States of America. Now, in just a couple of hours from now, the inauguration will take place, and India Today will be reporting from ground zero. But before that, take a look at this report on Melania Trump and how the world is focused on the US First Lady.
There's as much anticipation around incoming First Lady Melania Trump as there's around her husband. As Donald Trump and Melania prepare for their second inauguration, there's massive buzz around her fashion choices. Will she go all-American or haute couture? Ahead of Monday's inauguration, Melania Trump attended a wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Arlington. In keeping with this solemn occasion, Melania wore a double-breasted black Dior cape-like coat with black knee-high Christian Louboutin boots. She was dressed in head-to-toe white in a Dolce & Gabbana pantsuit as she departed Florida with Donald Trump and her son Barron. The iconic red soles of her flat Louboutins and black sunglasses added a stark contrast to her look. She threw on a charcoal grey Dior coat for the inaugural fireworks show in DC. Melania Trump's first major fashion moment as First Lady occurred during her husband's inauguration in January 2017. She wore a custom Ralph Lauren powder blue dress paired with a matching bolero jacket, gloves and Manolo Blahnik stilettos. The outfit drew comparisons to Jacqueline Kennedy's iconic inaugural look. It's not just the floaters who's creating a fashion flutter. Slotus Usha Vance is also shaking up the White House style scene. Usha appeared at a black tie affair on January 18 with her husband, Vice President-elect JD Vance, in a custom velvet Oscar de la Renta gown, featuring floral accents and a sweetheart neckline. For the inaugural candlelight dinner, she chose Indian couturier Gaurav Gupta. She cut a striking figure in all white at Arlington Cemetery's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The Trump 2.0 fashion files would be incomplete without Ivanka. She may not be playing any active role in the administration this time round, but she continues to put her best fashion foot forward. Ivanka dazzled in a crystal and pearl-embroidered Oscar de la Renta Empire waist gown for the inaugural candlelight dinner. Joining her family at the wreath-laying ceremony, Ivanka chose a camel coat by the same designer. Style and substance, powerful statements from the power women. Bureau Report, India Today.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
I don't read the news. I read between the lines to tell you the true version of events, the true story of our times.
To document grief, the toughest assignment for any journalist to be.
From those who matter.
Women politicians going to stick up for each other.
Of those who should matter. I document the truth. I don't